ahead and run through the morning agenda. We are almost done with the welcome for today, and then we're going to lead right into our Caltrans Stormwater Public Education Campaign, an awesome presentation we have from Michelle Alexander. We'll then take a Q&A afterwards and then go into a break before we lead into breakout session number 3. As a quick reminder for our breakout sessions today, we have 2 sessions to join. One is the remote ecosystem to tell trash stories, and the other one is the track 2 trash amendments. Those will both be here in the main room. They will not be in separate Zoom meetings at all. You can just stay in one place for today's events. Then after breakout session 3, we will break for lunch at 12:15 and be back at 1 p.m. Also, because the second breakout group is not running today, we're going to end a little bit earlier with our event wrap up. It's still going to start at 2:30, but we're going to end today at 3 p.m. instead of 3:30. Pretty nice thing to do on a Friday is end just a little bit early. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Michelle Alexander. Michelle has been working in Sacramento region's creative sector for almost 2 decades, and she brings a wealth of knowledge from that sector to her current work at Sagent Marketing. She started out working for print and radio organizations and also booked tours for an indie record label, a job that I wish I got to do at some point in my life, but I guess we're past that now. More recently, Michelle served as the executive director for the Arts and Business Council for 7 years, launched an incubator for nonprofits, and provided guidance to hundreds of startups, community initiatives, and mission-driven organizations as CEO of a social impact consulting firm. Michelle lives in Nevada City with her daughters and has been working remotely like many of us for these last few months. And Michelle's here today to talk about her work with the Caltrans Stormwater Public Education Campaign, figuring out the public messaging needed to help abate the amount of trash in our communities. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and introduce Michelle Alexander.
Thank you, Corey. I'm so glad to have met Corey and Greg through the water boards. We've been really fortunate at Sagent. We get to work with a lot of really great clients in the social impact space. A lot of our clients work in environmental causes and public behavior change causes. And so working with Caltrans and our stormwater program, we connected with Corey and Greg at the water boards and just had so much fun kind of talking about all the work you all are doing. I used to be a member at the Urban Hive as well. And so when I found out there was a trash hacking event at the Hive, I got really excited and I told Greg, okay, I have to get in on this as soon as possible. So very happy to be with you all today. The perspective that I'm hoping to share, I want to share, what's going on with the campaign, which just launched this month. And just to share a little bit about what we found the public's perception is around their interest in responding to litter, trash, and water pollutant issues, and kind of the campaign that we've developed to help guide that behavior change. What we're hoping to do kind of at the end, or sort of next steps, is continue to engage with this community of scientists and engineers and people that are really interested and committed to this cause, to learn more about this, the data you're collecting, the stories that come from that data, and help move those stories forward on some of the channels that we've established through both our paid and organic campaign channels. So please don't feel shy about reaching out or considering Sagent and myself as a resource. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in, and I'll share a little bit of information about the campaign, our goals, and some of the creative that we're using. Okay. Get. Can everybody see that okay? And Corey, you can give me the thumbs up. Great. So some of the objectives and goals that we started off with is really to help educate Californians about what is stormwater pollution, what is the impact of stormwater pollution, and then a focus on trash and litter. So there's lots of pollutants of concern, but at least in this first couple of quarters, we're really focusing on trash and litter as a specific pollutant of concern to California's waterways and water bodies. We would like to change the general behaviors and habits of the public. Motorists are obviously a key concern and focus for Caltrans. We want to help them reduce litter, trash, and other pollutants. We want to deliver messaging that will engage Californians to reduce pollution and help them feel empowered. We don't want them to feel like, oh my God, I'm responsible for cleaning up the entire state, which is a good way to help overwhelm and shut down someone. So we want them to feel like even small actions can be taken to help improve the situation and that they can be empowered to always do something positive. The campaign goals also were intended to be motivational and usable across the state, and very intentionally not single out or target specific groups or communities or demographics as the source of pollution. So we find a lot that there are certain groups that get blamed for littering and dumping and things like that. And we really want to give everyone that empowerment that they can make a choice and do something to contribute positively. And then the other goal of the campaign is to partner with the Clean California Initiative. They are a separate initiative from the Stormwater program, so we are in partnership with them to align messaging and goals, but they are actually their own project as well as the Stormwater campaign. We started off with research, as I'm sure this group can appreciate. We wanted to make sure that the messaging and the imagery and our strategies were well informed by people living day-to-day lives and not just a bunch of us in a vacuum on the top of a hill determining what's good for everybody. I also think that it's important that communities advocate for themselves, and big government isn't always going to be the most productive voice. So we wanted to make sure that we were really informed by the public. There are 4 different approaches that we took and are continuing to take to research throughout this campaign and this project. The last couple months, we focused on a lot of focus groups and qualitative research, both with general market and diverse communities. We did focus groups with exploratory topics. So just looking at what are the cultures, the beliefs, the perspectives. And then also we took a couple of campaign creative options to focus groups to see how they responded specifically to those messages and imagery. We've also just completed a quantitative tracking study to establish a baseline of what the public's awareness and perceptions and understanding are of the state's water quality. In particular, it's related to litter and other pollutants. And then we're also in just the next couple of weeks launching we call it a 24-hour day after litter recall study. And that's to actually contact 500 to 600 people across the state and say, did you litter in the last 24 hours? Will you please tell us? So that hopefully we can gauge if the campaign is effective in reducing some of that behavior. So hopefully people answer those questions honestly. And so what I'll share with you today is some of the research findings from the qualitative efforts. Our start was with the multicultural exploratory focus groups. So this is, again, what do you think of litter? What do you think of the environment in California? What do you think that impact is on highways? Do you see a connection with waterways? And so we found that people really do get that connection. We also wanted to explore, any nuanced differences or cultural cues so that messaging is relevant to the people we want it to reach. So we had 4 groups in Northern California and Southern California online. We worked with folks who identify as African American and then Spanish dominant Latinos. We had 32 respondents in a variety of age groups, family, work status, education, background, all that good stuff. And some of those key findings, people really understood the idea of the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And then as we apply that to litter, you want to have clean, you want to contribute to clean spaces because you want to be in clean spaces. So it elevates the collective when we approach it from that kind of golden rule philosophy. People understood the journey that litter makes into waterways. So that's good. That education seems to be there. People in the Bay Area seem to be even more conscious of this, because I think we have so many water bodies in Northern California. I say we because I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I can't help myself. And then we looked at, it's kind of a 2-pronged approach when we're moving into the education strategy. It has to happen in early childhood, as well as we want to get them now that they may be an adult. But it's really important to start the education at home and in the early formative years of school. We also found, and not surprisingly, that there's systemic inequity. So we found neighborhoods not always getting the same level of service. There, whether it's bias or whether it's funding allocations from property taxes, but we definitely heard feedback and experience of densely populated, lower income and neighborhoods of color feeling less service, that items that might be illegally dumped in their neighborhoods stay there much longer than maybe a neighborhood that was, a mile over and perceived as more of a white neighborhood, for example, or a higher income neighborhood. So I think that there's definitely a learning opportunity here to understand that trash and litter and dumping and pollution, et cetera, are a multi-layered issue. And again, not surprising, but there's some systemic issues, there's individual behavior. I think there's also, some societal concerns there as well. So with that, we moved into running 2 focus group series of, we brought 2 campaigns to 8 more focus groups, both in LA and Oakland. So the first campaign that we looked at was called California Is This, Not That, encouraging Californians to have pride in their beautiful state, which, the intention was that they would be so proud of this beauty, they would not litter. So we contrasted this beautiful, iconic imagery with shots of litter on beaches and rivers and things like that. And then the second campaign, Let's Talk Trash, a little more action-oriented headline. So put litter in the trash. It's very specific and direct and not in our future. And it was a little more colorful, kind of gamified, a little more illustrative. So we tested these both out in both English and Spanish, variety of ages, households, education as well. And what we found for this first image of this, beautiful coastline is that the public felt that this was a statement at them. So California is this, not that. There's no invitation to a conversation there. It's really just a statement. So they saw this as beautiful, iconic California, but because of this kind of drone shot, it didn't resonate in a way they felt that's how they experienced the beach. They felt like some of our people of color felt that it depicted inequality and inaccessibly, both physically and because of socioeconomic limitations. So that was also very interesting. The ADA access to this beach pictured is not great. So I think that was really interesting as well. Spanish speakers felt a lot of connection to the water and recognized the impact on the ocean is particularly profound. So this was really interesting feedback that we got. And again, thank goodness that we do research before we go spend a bunch of money on these campaigns. The second, we showed 5 different iterations of this style of campaign with different images. This one was overwhelmingly the favorite. And I think what we determined is it's really the first person perspective. So if you think about it, this is how you walk up to a beach. This is what your view is and how you see it. So it's not, a far away drone shot. It's not overly editorial or photoshopped or colorized. It's a pretty real image. And yes, it's still of a beautiful beach. And so there was definitely some interest in having more realistic, visceral urban environments. But of the images that we had to work with, this was the favorite so far. They also liked the before and after images being very similar, so that you can immediately see the impact of the trash and what it could look like if it was cleaned up. And they could see themselves here. So this was the direction that we ended up prioritizing. So for our second campaign, some of the responses to this, it was well liked, especially by the younger demographic. They liked the kind of playful images in the text. Some felt that upbeat colors were not serious enough. So they felt like they wanted, again, that more visceral reality, and that this was too playful for how serious the issue is. The other thing that we found is people immediately got taken out of this message because they saw, for example, cans, and it was like they knew immediately and felt it was wrong. That's not trash, that's recycling. So we've since really been vigilant in our image choices to make sure that we're not categorizing recyclable items as trash, because it's counterproductive. We want people to recycle, so we want to encourage that behavior. This one also, the response was it didn't feel like it was very California. It could be used pretty much anywhere. And then some of the Latino responses equated it to the future of their children. So there was some benefit there that they got the importance of doing something now so that their children are affected in later years. So what we ended up deciding after all the research came together was to really continue iterating on the California is this, not that, and really that before and after kind of beautification story and matching locations from a first person viewpoint. And so there's a couple of images that we'll be focusing on as we continue the campaign over the next 3 years. We had a couple of tagline options that everyone liked. What we really landed on was clean highways, clean water, clean California. And that was to kind of help bridge the connections between our roadways and our waterways, and also our Clean California Initiative partner. We also found we needed to have a very clear call to action. So just California is this, not that. Again, that was going to need some more work because we needed something that was more invitational to the viewer and something that was more action oriented. And then the URL that we ended up going with was cleanca.gov because it was nice and simple and people really appreciated the short URL whenever possible. As some of the messaging, it was also really important. Our first go is focusing on kind of the environment without people featured. And then as we continue to roll out newer iterations, it will feature more humans. So these are kind of the calls to action that we're looking at, sort of those specific behaviors that we want to see. And I'd love to just take a moment for everyone on our call today. If there's anything that you see that's missing or that maybe you think is really fantastic, I'd love to hear any other ideas that maybe we should consider and incorporate as far as behavior change that's needed or good calls to action. So if you'd like, if you can pop that in the chat, would love to, see what everybody thinks. And if you have any questions so far, feel free to raise your hand and we can check in real quick if anybody's got any questions at this point. Otherwise, we'll have some time at the end as well with Greg.
Can you see the chat, Michelle?
I can't.
Okay. So we have a contribution saying asking people to pick up litter they see.
Oh, fantastic. Bring your own cup container. Yeah, that's fantastic. Some of our most recent outreach kits and messaging are going to be focused on, I think there's a new ordinance that allows people to bring in their own containers to restaurants for takeaway. So that's great.
Was that a statewide or are those usually citywide?
I'm not positive. One of our partners brought that up. And so we've asked her to kind of bring us some more info because we want to see how far that extends. It's like that we want to be good environmental stewards. And then we also have to be germaphobes right now. And it's like a tough balance to strike. But I love the idea of people being able to use their own usable containers, cups, silverware. We have some bamboo silverware that we take with us camping.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes, good call. Great. Well, thank you for those suggestions in the chat. Feel free to keep them coming if you like. We'll share some of our initial campaign creative. So based on all the research and all the feedback and our stakeholders working with our stormwater folks, as well as the governor's office and our Caltrans executives, we landed on, let's change this to that. So what I personally love, there's a couple things I really love about the way this came out. And the biggest one is let us change. So let's, like together, all of us, we all get to contribute and do this together, which I think is such a great iteration and change from the original California is this, not that. And this, I think, really invites everyone to kind of be a part of this transformation. And then we moved kind of the littered side over to the left. So it's much more of a true before and after. So you get a sense of what is the change that's going to occur and what is the transformation that's potentially can happen with these small changes that we make. We also used the caution sign, the Caltrans caution sign, to differentiate before and after, which was a suggestion of our photographer. And my kind of running joke that I'm sure our whole team is very sick of by now, but these Caltrans colors, they are so Caltrans this season. So I loved how on point the sign was for the Caltrans brand, and it immediately tricks the mind into, oh, I have to check this message out because that caution sign is in my brain as a symbol for something I need to be aware of as I'm driving. So we're already building on the familiarity of this symbol and this signage. And so really pleased with how this came out. So these are our digital display ads and the billboard ads. We have these running in San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, and LA. We also have signs at gas stations on top of gas pumps and convenience store posters. So it's a really nice, quick call to action: clean trash out of your car while you pump gas. It's immediate, like, oh, that's easy. I can definitely do that. Thanks for the reminder, Stormwater. And then the convenience store signs, inviting people to clean out their cars while they're there. And there's hopefully a clean and open garbage receptacle for them. And then we also have more digital and social in both English and Spanish. Our website launched October 4th. And so again, this is in partnership with the Clean California Initiative. On this site, I'd love to invite you all to visit if you like. We have a resources page for toolkits, all of this campaign graphics. So if you want to share this, if you'd like to reach out about partnering with us to co-brand, we would love to explore any of those opportunities and conversations. There's information here on ways you can get involved in cleanup events and things like that. Another thing Corey and Shelly and I have talked about a little bit, and I believe Nick, is as the stories of the data that you all are collecting come, bubble up to the top, we'd love to help distribute, stories and content and all of that through the website and on our channels. So please also consider this a community resource and visit when you get a chance. This is some of our paid media ads. So again, just kind of some fun graphics and visuals of different environments. So people can see, again, sort of that urban environment and what that change can look like, as well as the kayak. And so now I'll share with you our video. And this is a little bit of a departure for Caltrans. I'm not going to lie, we had to do a little advocacy to get this approved because it's kind of fun and a little bit silly. And now we're joking that Chip Bag is going to do a tour of California. So,
welcome to Trash Talk. Today's guest is Chip Bag. What's up, Chip?
Man, I've been on the road a lot.
That's not where you belong.
Right? Litter travels into rivers, lakes, and oceans.
But we drink, swim, and fish in that water.
Yep. Time to make a change.
Yeah, let's change this to that.
Put me in the bin where I belong.
Help keep our highways and waterways clean. Learn more at cleanca.gov. Welcome.
Oops, sorry. So that's our little video, which was super fun to make. And I keep teasing Lauren Magana at Caltrans. He's our contract manager and my partner in crime, that I'm going to buy him a big Chip Bag mascot costume to wear to events. But I think this could be a lot of fun. And again, it just is a really fun way to engage the public and families in this message that we really need to get across to people. I see that Janet's got her hand up. Do we have a minute to check her question?
Yeah, totally. Janet, if you're there, I'm going to ask you to unmute and let's see if that worked.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much. This is really great. So my question is, when you tailor this campaign, are you doing the training to the various Caltrans districts, or this go to headquarters and headquarters disseminate this to the districts, or how is this disseminated for the entire state of California, the various districts that Caltrans has?
Yeah, great question. This goes through the headquarters, and they disseminate the information to their districts. And we work with various districts on different types of activities or engagement or media opportunities, things like that. As well, we put all of the materials on the website as a resource center so that any other partners, agencies can also access the materials and use them if they would like.
Okay, and then if this goes to the district, how is Caltrans disseminating the message to each one of them? Do they have someone who is doing this, or how does it work?
Yeah, they have a PIO in each of their districts. And so I'm not totally positive, to be honest, what the internal process is for pushing this campaign out to all the districts formally. But I know that we have a contract manager that focuses specifically on this stormwater campaign internally at Caltrans. And so my understanding is that they push that out through their internal channels to each of the districts.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Yeah,
Michelle.
thank you. Thank you. And then, Tony, I want to acknowledge your question about in-language resources. So at this original launch, our resources are out in English and Spanish. And then we would like to have additional translations available. The website will be available in multiple languages very soon. They're installing a translation widget there. And then I believe that they'll be adding additional languages as we move forward. If you have a specific request, or if there's a unique community that has a need, please feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to get them whatever resources they might benefit from. And then we'll wrap up pretty quickly, but I just wanted to share a little bit about the paid media plan, so that, you know, we've created all of this fun campaign, all these materials, video, radio, billboards, and so it'll be distributed statewide. These are some of our target audiences for this initial flight. Again, we're looking at most of our outdoor and radio is focused on they're called DMAs, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, and Sacramento. This is probably very tiny and silly, but I wanted to share with you what our calendar kind of looked like at a glance. Our first big flight, you know, is running in October and November. And so we'll have another flight in the spring of paid media, and then it'll be pretty much twice a year over the next 3 years. So again, we're doing radio, digital, social, outdoor, and then we'll have lots of events and sponsorships coming online in probably the first and second quarter of next year. So the reason I also wanted to share this is because there's lots of opportunities, and we have these channels in place and this paid media campaign and this, you know, 300 million person opportunity to reach these folks with data and messaging and education. And so, you know, I kind of want to just put that back out there to everyone. We would love to learn more about your work. We would love to learn more about what you're discovering in your work and how we might be able to bring some of this information, this data, these stories forward to help engage the public. And if the channels that we've established through this campaign can be of benefit to you, I'll, you know, continue the broken record, but please again, consider us a resource. And thank you so much for checking out the new Let's Change This to That Stormwater campaign.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
At this time, we have a more formal Q&A session. So if you would like to come off mic, go ahead and raise your hand. Otherwise, we can also keep some Q&A in the chat as well. Michelle, I just think this is so cool. As far as, like, you know, the stories that you're interested in telling, you know, how might you foresee kind of incorporating those stories into a campaign, given your experience?
Well, I know one of the conversations we had with Greg was how AI technology may be incorporated into trash or litter inventory methodology and tracking, and how that might have the potential to reduce human bias in reporting. And I know something like that would be really, really interesting and compelling, especially for our earned media efforts. And I think, the channels that we have for social, organic social, paid social, website or partnerships, I think that, being able to distribute that story and what the potential is around that would be really exciting. So that's one example I could think of. Yeah. Another way we're kind of using some of that data is key pollutants of concern for different regional water board districts, and some of the waterways in each of those districts. So we're looking at turning that into an infographic map for the state of California. So what are the top, 2 to 4 pollutants of concern for each water board region, and we'll look at putting that into an infographic and distributing that, widely to the public and to journalists and things. So,
yeah. That's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and call on Wynn.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious, in your research, what did you ask what the public perception of solutions was? I'd be really interested to know, like, does the public think that like cleanup is the ultimate solution to this problem, or do they think that restructuring how we create and sell materials is the solution? Or did you ask those kind of questions during your surveys?
Not that directly or specifically, and I like that question. I think it definitely would be interesting to put that out there. Indirectly, the responses that we got, were around obviously that city services were a big one, that those needed to be improved and needed to be made more equitable. That the charges and costs for dumping like mattresses or large items were prohibitive for people that might be in lower income brackets. So they wanted to see, more free dump days and support the financial side of being able to dispose of their items properly. There was definitely dialogue around encampments and some of the concerns around that, although litter problems and the pollutants of concern have existed long before the encampment issues increased so much over the last, 2 years, 3 years or so. And then there's, it also depended on generations. So younger generations tended to put the solutions or the responsibility on government and local, state, federal government. And the older generations tended to take a little more individual responsibility and feel like they needed to educate their children at home. They needed to clean up after themselves. They needed to, pack out what they brought in. So, it varied quite a bit. And our takeaway was really that it needs to be a collaboration among sectors. There's individual, there's private, there's public, there's nonprofit, and that it's kind of multi-layer. There's individual behavior as well. When I first started this campaign, my first question is, well, what are we doing to encourage biodegradable materials and packaging? And are we having any responsibility put on some of those companies that produce a lot of the items in your background picture?
Yeah, that's really great. If I could just ask a follow-up. So I think a lot about when we're creating this media, what it's kind of proposing as the solution. It's like hidden underneath that message. And I wonder, I think the materials that you've created are really great. They kind of show like, all right, here's the trashy place. We don't want that. I think that's clear. But then the solution to me that I immediately think of is like, oh, we got to go clean it up. Like, let's get out there on the beach and go start doing some cleanups. And I just wonder, because like some of these solutions are very nuanced, and if like you suggested, there's like people aren't coming to pick up the trash. Like people who are proposing those as solutions to you are very educated about the problem, to even recognize that that's what's going on. That like, oh, there's like systemic inequities happening, right? And I wonder how we can educate people more about those in our messaging too, and get that across so that we can activate people to act on those kind of sources of the pollution.
Yeah, I love it. I think one of the ways we're trying to bring that forward is through the website and really promoting the cleanup events, and encouraging people to get involved in that. So thank you very much for your questions. I appreciate it.
I'm going to go ahead and, well, Joseph added in the chat, prevent this from happening by doing XYZ, which I think is adds on to Wynn's message. I'm going to go ahead and recognize Janet again.
Michelle, can you hear me? Thank you, Corey.
Yeah.
So I was an employee with a public agency for more than 23 years, and I can see how they can benefit from your presentation and the work that you have done to meet the requirements of the MS4 permit regarding the PIP PMCM required. I can see how you just need to tweak the presentation a bit. Yeah. So having said that, what will be the best way to contact you? So I somehow tell them about you and you can know about them, because I think they will be a wonderful match.
I think I just lost the last bit of your audio, Janet.
Okay, let me try again.
Sorry.
Yeah, my computer, I am trying between my husband, mine, and the phone. My computer is just like,
I think.
Can you hear me now, Michelle?
I can.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard what I was saying about the need. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the presentation and how we can make adjustments or accommodations to fit the audience that you think is important for us to reach. So I've also just put my email in the chat. It looks like Corey's got it up on the screen, and you're more than welcome to reach out anytime. Go ahead, Janet.
That's it. I more than anything else. Yeah, let me write it down.
Great,
so I can, because the work is absolutely unbelievable. And sometimes the stormwater coordinator for a public agency has to wear so many hats that they really need a consultant to do this, but you have done the work. So I really believe that they can benefit from what you have done.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Would love to learn more. And Caltrans has been, they've been an amazing partner. We certainly didn't do this on our own. It's been, in lockstep with our folks over there.
Well, you know that Caltrans really has such a big view of the stormwater program. I mean, when it comes to a public agency, they really got it. So I don't mean that the others are not doing the work, but I mean, they are willing to have people doing this. And since you already have such a wonderful material in here, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to do it either, and they will be on compliance. This is really, really good.
Yeah.
I think Janet also asked earlier whether the slides could be made available to send or not, or if you need to adjust anything on the slides.
Sure. Let me. I'll just check in with them just to clear that. I'm sure that would be fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Janet.
We'll wait another few seconds to see if there's any other questions that pop up for people. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you, Michelle, for coming and presenting with us today. This is an awesome perspective that I think people who can be immersed in trash data may not necessarily get to see. This is a big piece of data, the social data that is so important to addressing our trash problem. So thank you so much for collaborating with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and excited to see kind of the intersection of our work.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, see